What's that? Mud root come off. Winter lips rotted out of it. Just need to basically make sure everything's detached from the fenders and the inner fenders and wiring from the radiator support. No hoses or anything. It looks like this radiator's junk. You can see the moisture on it right there. All that blue and green. The reason I need a new one is look up underneath that battery tray. See the hole back up in there. That's the bottom of this support. Shifter boot hadn't been off of it so long that the heads of the screws are rusted, so I had to grind off the heads and knock that off there. may be one of the rougher ones, but whenever you put the full floor section in, it doesn't matter whether it's a little hole or a big hole, you're cutting it all out. Right here, chop it all the way down here, cut it all the way across here, all the way here, all the way here, all the way back up, down, cut it off here, every bit of that cut off, was all underneath. These are kind of hard to come by sometimes. I'll have to find the collar. This one's broke. The bad thing about that is to put this on, I gotta disassemble this whole steering column, which is not the easiest thing to do, but I've done it before. Mud daubers. Cautious with it, but it was already cracked. On 70 model trucks, the little screws are 7mm. On the 81 up, 87s, 5.5mm. So today we're going to prepare to remove this cab off the frame. So we're going to need to unhook the brake lines off the master cylinder and booster. I'm gonna undo a lot of the AC components, and then we're gonna unhook all the wiring off the firewall, make sure nothing's attached from the frame to the cab. You got steering components then undo, and then there's 4 main bolts that go through the cab supports that hold this thing to the frame. So we're gonna go ahead and remove all that stuff, just make sure there's nothing left that's gonna get caught up between the engine compartment and the frame. And then later on today, once all that's unhooked, we'll lift this cab up off the frame and set it to the side. That way we can start cleaning on the frame and the engine, and then doing cutting and welding on the cab floors. This whole steering system is kind of a pain to get apart, because you can take it apart here, but it doesn't slide enough to get off of that stub. And then hook it here, but it doesn't slide enough that way to get off this stub. So the whole thing's just a pain. Look at this, how nasty this stuff is. 45 years of grease and grime. I have another truck that I'm looking at for a parts donor for this truck, for the bed and fenders, but I'm not going to be able to go see that truck until middle of next week. So I'm going to go ahead and take this old air conditioning pump off here, because we're going to put a new aftermarket system on. I'm going to kind of clean up this engine bay the best I can and try to scrape all the grease and dirt and grime off this transmission and transfer case, and just get some of this stuff cleaned up while we're waiting on the parts and waiting to go look at that other truck. So we're getting ready to cover up the carburetor and distributor on this engine, and I want to soak this engine, transmission, and transfer case down with a degreaser and use a power washer to get all this stuff cleaned off. But I would like to get all the wiring and stuff out of my way and cover up the carburetor, cover up the distributor. So to start with, I'm going to find number 1 spark plug wire and trace it up to the distributor. And that's going to be right here. I'm just going to put a little mark on this so I don't forget where number 1's at. And the firing order on these old small block Chevys is 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. And then you could trace this wire around and it'll go down to number 2. So you got your odds on this side, your evens on this side. So it's not a thing that you couldn't find your way back to number 1, but you'd have to set your timing mark and bring the piston up to top dead center and all that. So it's just easier if you could find it before you start taking these off and put a mark on it, and then you'd be ready to go to take all this out of your way and cover it up and start your degreasing process. So I'm going to start doing some metal work on this cab today. I'm going to cut out this rocker panel and put the new rocker panel in. I generally would start with my floor pan, but I made a mistake, and the floor pan that I ordered is not big enough to cover all the rust that I'm wanting to repair. So I had to send back and get the bigger floor section. But I believe I can put this rocker in today, and then when the floor section comes in, I can slip it under the edge. But to start out with, I want to take some measurements from like where the position of this rocker is right now, and correspond it with some other points on this cab, whether you go up to the top or in the middle here on this body line or whatever. I want to take some measurements in those spots to make sure when I put this new rocker in that I put it back to these spots, because once you start cutting this stuff out, that's going to weaken that cab and it'll do some flexing on you. So I just want to make sure when I'm done putting it back in that it's in the same spot that it was in before. You could also tack it in a few spots and hang your door back on and make sure that it's going to fit properly that way. And I'd like to leave some reference points, like, so this hole here where this little rubber stop goes, and there's a hole on the new part where the little rubber stop goes, and then there's also a hole in the front here where a bolt goes through the back of the fender. It's also here. I like to leave a few of those corresponding points on the cab if possible, just so when I line this stuff back up, it gives you a reference point there, so that'll help you out some too. But I'll go ahead and get started measuring on this thing and get it cut out of there to see if we can't get this put in. See these spot welds right here? A lot of people try to drill all those out, and that's good. You could drill that out and drill those spot welds out all the way around and take this cab corner off. But a lot of times with these trucks, they're so rotted and everything, you can't even find where to drill the spot welds. So if you just cut through the first layer of metal
and don't cut through the second and know where all the braces are, then you can just cut the cab corner off and then go back and knock that little 1/2 inch piece off like I was doing there. Right here it is. That's where they'd be trying to drill each individual spot weld off of this. When you're cutting through right here, you just want to make sure you don't cut so deep that you're cutting into the internal brace. Just cut through the first sheet of metal. And once you pop it off, you can peel that flange off of there. Now that I got this flange here exposed, I can go ahead and cut the outer layer of metal here and here, and then pop this piece off also. What I was showing you over here earlier on this flange, all these spot welds, that's what I was trying to deal with over here. Trying to find them and get them drilled out of there. Of course, it don't help to have a dull drill bit and a junk spot weld cutter. I spent today cutting the old rockers and cab corners out of this truck. Like I said earlier, the floor section, I'm still waiting on it. So I got these all dry fitted in. Tomorrow I'll go cut the other side out, get the rocker and cab corner dry fitted in on that side. And then when the floor sections come in, we'll get those measured out and cut and put in place. And then we'll pop all this stuff loose and put weld through primer on everything, and then put it all back together and start welding it up. So these floor pans I got weren't near big enough to cover up all the rot in this floorboard, so I took a piece of this material and I laid that floor pan in there and laid this material in and traced out the extra metal I needed. And I took this out and cut it out of an old fender that came off the truck, and then I shaped all that metal to lay in there tight and tack welded it to my pan. Now I can weld that all in solid, and then next step would be to cut all this rust out and then install that whole section permanently.
Some of this I may have to work as I will, but I'd like to get maybe a screw.
So I picked up this 78 GMC. Been on Marketplace for over a year, but I kept looking at the pictures. It looked really straight to me, but it was in a barn where you couldn't see it very good. I'm gonna go through this truck and see what parts I can use off of it to get that 79 four-wheel drive put together. I think maybe this thing will save me some money on buying new parts and maybe be able to stick with some GM stuff instead of having to go aftermarket on some of it. That's one of the junk shock. I think it's probably been on since the truck was new. Yeah, it's not supposed to go together quite so easily. No resistance at all left.
tanks on these trucks, you know, they've either been replaced or need replaced. Sometimes you don't see a leak until you take the tank out and take the straps off, and then there's rust under the straps and they start leaking. So it's very hard to, you know, find one of these old trucks with a good fuel tank on it. So this one I took off and it didn't look too bad. So I'm thinking, well, it's not leaking anywhere that I see. Pulled the straps off of it, still no leaks. Scuffed it off the wire brush, still no leaks, no holes. Thinking, well, it's probably been replaced, you know. Found the date on it, August 24th, 1978. So it's an original fuel tank and not one single pinhole in it, nowhere. So I dumped all the old fuel out of it, sloshed it around so I know it's getting clean. A good coat of this stuff. I will put a new unit in it before I put the bed back on, because I don't want to have to put one in it later. Oh, when I got the windshield pulled out of it, there's several spots along this bottom lip that were rotted through. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting strips of metal as wide as that ledge, and then flattening them out and grinding them off. And I'm coming in from the back side and putting these pieces up from the bottom side. And then I can weld all that in. Get something like this going on, and then you could do a little more welding in there and get that perfectly slick and smoothed up. But that's about the easiest solution I can come up with, is just cut these strips and put them up in the back. That way you're not just burning through everywhere, you got some backing. I got my 3 big parts in, the hood, tailgate, and bumper. No dents and no scratches in anything. I'll put my cab mount together, and you're gonna watch, and you're gonna put yours together, okay? Same way. So I cut these sleeves off to the 3 3/4 inch like the directions showed. Now me and Samuel here, we're gonna put them together and set them in place. So we're gonna take this and flip it over like that where it's flat. You got that. And then you're gonna take this and put it inside of here, and just keep twisting and pushing. You get it all the way down in there. Take it on the floor and go like that. And drive it in. Alright, you got it down. Alright, now you take it, you see this end? You put it down in this hole right here. Alright, now we're good. So we got the underneath side of this cab painted. Brand new polyurethane cab mounts. Better than the factory rubber ones. They're not going to split open and crush down near as bad. These things ought to last for years and give this truck a good ride. And everything ought to be level and square. Got a new fuel sitting unit put in it. Now we can finish out the body work on the cab corners and floor pans. Get this cab ready to put under primer. I can bring that truck bed in here and get to working on that. I brought that 78 parts truck in and took the bed off of it and completely disassembled the bed. And then when I got to looking at everything, the white bed side off the original 79 truck was better than the one on the 78. So I went ahead and cleaned up and painted the complete underneath of the bed side, and all the seams where the bed sides bolt to the bed floor. Went ahead and treated all those for rust. And when I had this bed side off, I put a new brace back in behind here. But I got to noticing the patch panel that they had put in before, they'd missed a bunch of rust right in here, and there was a bunch of welding wire stuck through where it was just riddled with pinholes. And the fitment wasn't good, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this back out and put in a new one. Get started on that and see where it takes us. far as I can. I'll cut them off. After I get all of them torqued down, I go and do the four corners of it. I'll make sure everything's good. There it is, 2-inch rough country lift.
Somebody's already put one cover on this thing. These things aren't fitting quite as good as I've had them fit in the past, so I'm wondering if they don't need to be warmed up a little bit more than I've got them. Pretty cold right now. Finally got that new seat covering on this thing last night, and I'm fighting the cold temperatures quite a bit. Wound up taking it up to the cabin and warming it up there, and that kind of helped me get it in place a little better. There's still some creases and stuff in it that you can see that they'll come out with the temperature changes. The thing is pulled as tight as I could get it, so we'll see how that goes once it warms up a little better. I'm gonna attempt to get this new rubber floor lining put into place today. When I opened up the package it was in, it was all folded up in there and wadded up in there, and it said to lay it out flat for 42 hours because it's a molded piece, and that was supposed to help get the form back to it. And they wanted it at least at 72 degrees, so I laid it out
up at the cabin also, and warmed it up for about 4 days, but it's still so stiff that it doesn't really lay in there near like it should. You can see the creases and stuff in it that I think if you got it good and hot that you could get it to mold back in there. So I'm gonna take the hair dryer to it today and just go down at every crease and crevice and see if I can get it warmed up and get everything fitting in there right. It's slowly starting to take shape. That hair dryer, I can only heat up a spot about a 6-inch area at a time, so it's taking forever with that. But I put that little Stanley portable heater in there, and you can put it in a spot and heat a foot or two up, and you can really see where it's starting to take shape around that corner there. It's just gonna take quite a while in the cold weather to get that thing to all form fit. It'd be nice if you could take this thing right out of the mold when they made it and throw it in there. Try to lay exactly where you wanted it then. But anyway, that's the process I'm gonna keep working with and see if I can get it to lay out how it needs to be. Pull my rope up. There it is. Got this chrome block. After I let it rest there a while. See how these hinges are like this?
Yeah.
When we bring the hood over, it's gotta be like that, like it's open. stop it a little bit from going too far.
You know what I mean?
right here for just a second and it quits.
So I finally got the paint laid out on this truck last night. I started out with the white, which didn't have any metallic in it at all, and the gun was spraying real good with that. And then when I switched over to the green, the gun would spray fine for a second and then it would quit. So I tore it down and messed with that gun for probably an hour or 2 hours, I can't even remember, getting pretty frustrated. Come to find out, the metallic in this sage green paint was plugging up the little filter in the bottom of the cup. So once we got that figured out, it was back to spray, and everything went pretty good after that. Still got a lot of chrome to put on this truck, put the grill in it. I got some transmission service work to do to it, things like that, but I think we're finally over the hump. Where the paint stopped. Don't want that all over the place. That's it for that too. So I've sprayed this Raptor bed liner on with the gun they sell for it. I've used the rollers to roll it on, and I seem to get better coverage and better texture when I roll it on. Put on today. I might cheat in these little cracks and crevices and use my gun a little bit. I kit and then don't use it, but there's one, two. That's why I don't never throw anything away. When you put the tailgate back on, you shouldn't see any of that, you know what I mean? And then when you shut it, you'll just see, or open it, you'll just see black. When you shut it, if you see anything, you'll just see green. put 3 coats on everything and get it all even, and then the pieces that need the backside painted, I'll turn them over and do the backside. Too big. I don't think they were using this original hanger, if I remember right. Might be able to do that. I had to modify the inlet and outlet on there to get it to fit the pipes that are on this truck. That 78 parts truck I thought the windshield in it was good, so I went out there to take it out and found a little rock chip in it, so I went and bought a new glass, and then during the installment process of the new glass I didn't have it centered up quite right, so when I tried to fit this last little corner in, I cracked it all the way down to here. So I'm going to take it out today and try to put in another new one, see what happens. Trying to come out of the outer rubber, you know, like pulling the glass out, sucking the rubber in, and leaving my glass out. I need them to both go in at the same time. Yeah, be able to move. Just to kind of get the rubber to kind of do what I need it to do, you know. Hopefully the glass will just ease in where it needs to. Try not to put any pressure too much on the glass. Oh, it come out, it come out. Got them pulled together. Now this goes in as a cover piece over the splice, which, you know, I just gotta work it, get it in there. Kind of a pain. A couple of hands.
block off plate in there because of that new air conditioning system. They send that in there. You're not going to use it anymore. This old truck's been leaking transmission fluid and oil since I brought it in here. So today I'm going to tackle trying to get this stuff taken care of. On the oil pan, there's a scrape mark right in this area here on the old oil pan. And I'm not sure if there's any little holes in where it's been scraped up or not. So I'm not going to take any chances with that. I'm going to put a new oil pan gasket on it. And the transmission, the reason it's leaking is because this gasket here is dry and cracked on the truck, and you can see spots of it even sticking out from the oil pan, or the transmission oil pan. So we're going to put this gasket on today and a new filter in it, and hopefully that'll take care of any leaks we got underneath the truck. So I cleaned out the transmission pan, wiped it all down with degreaser and got a fresh coat of paint on it. Got the old oil pan out of it. And what I like on these now, on the oil pans, you can get these one-piece gaskets. So on the old style, they just got a strip here, and then down the sides, you know, it's a 4-piece. But these one-piece gaskets, they cost more money, but they seal up a lot better and they're easier to install. So